food.
Indeed, balanced diet plays a major role in ensuring that kids assimilate learning instructions fast and well. According to medical experts, it helps in developing the brain capacity and cognitive response index of each child. Quality education across board was one of the cardinal programs of the Aregbesola administration in the state of Osun. To benefit in this lofty ideal, therefore, a child must be healthy and well fed, since fingers are not equal. The only way that indigent children could be partakers in the government educational program was to have access to at least one balanced meal per day through a centrally run program of school meals as inherited and perfected by the Aregbesola regime in the state of Osun. The Osun School Feeding Program, otherwise known as OMEAL, covered children in elementary schools from grades 1 to 4. When the Aregbesola administration took over Osun leadership in 2010, a feeding system was in place. The feeding program started with about 150,000 pupils. The quality of food, hygiene of the cooks and servers, the kitchen and kitchen utensils, and the training of all the personnel involved in the program were below par.
The UNESCO, long before my advent, selected some 6 states, Osun inclusive, to pilot school feeding. Osun was one of the few that sustained it till my advent, but it was so badly managed and put together. So badly managed. The foods were cooked in the school compound that were very unhygienic. The appearances of the cooks and the vendors were distasteful. From the color of the uniform, which was shabby, unattractive, and usually dirty, to the preparation of the meal. And the menu itself, it was clear to us that it was either we stop the entire program because it was not of any value to the pupils, not of any value at all. It was below our own level of an acceptable meal for pupils at that level.
So the governor directed that we should seek the advice of nutritionists, which we did from Obafemi Awolowo University and University of Osun. So we requested for a menu for the children that will impact on them positively, that will impact on their health, that will impact on their growth, because quite a lot of the students, especially in the rural areas, had stunted growth. They advise us to increase the protein intake of the pupils in the school if we want them to grow mentally and physically, and also to give them good health. So we adopted it. Out of what they directed us to do was feeding the kids with food rich in protein: eggs, chicken, beef, and fish. This we adopted. We feed the kids twice a week with chicken. We feed them once a week with eggs, and they take fish and beef once each. In addition, they directed that we should ensure the kids take fruits daily and vegetables. So we gathered some women together. We sought the recruitment of food vendors. 3,007 women were recruited across the states from all the nooks and crannies of the state, irrespective of the political affiliation, religion, or anything. We sent for training on the best hygiene techniques for cooking school menu. Besides this, we also train them on cleanliness. We ran a program for them for about 6 weeks on cleanliness. We kitted them with smart uniforms that are even attractive to the children. They were also sent on medical examination to ensure that they do not have communicable diseases that would affect the children.
Since education was at the core of the Aregbesola APC administration, the OMEAL program became inevitable. But the government believed in doing the right thing, because if the children must be well educated, they must be well fed.
What purpose was it, put in place for? It was meant to ensure that pupils stay more in school, they get better health system through the good food they are providing them for lunch, and ensure that they are regular in school, so as to ensure that the quality of teaching and learning is enhanced at that level.
So, the recalibrated feeding program started in 2012 with 252,000 pupils. This was after due consultations had taken place, research carried out, menu reworked with scientific inputs from experts, and over 3,000 food vendors from all local governments in the state hired, trained, and empowered to kickstart the new feeding program for Osun Aregbesola style. One of the 6-pronged programs of the Aregbesola administration in the state of Osun was to banish hunger and poverty. The OMEAL program was not only in tandem with that vision, it fulfilled the promise to empower every citizen economically. The OMEAL intervention, for instance, made it possible for government to employ 3,000 food vendors as indicated earlier, and also indirectly touch the lives of market women, transporters, farmers, and other ancillary service providers. This gesture continually reflected the domestic economics of the state and also triggered the feasible and real economic growth within the larger society.
I know the government must be spending a lot of money to sustain the system of this free feeding. And I think for that, a lot of money will have gone into the pockets of people who are connected with the production and service of foods for these children.
The parents benefited from it, the pupils benefited from it by their concentration on their education. Sellers of food items benefited from it in the market. And the food vendors that are responsible for putting all this food together, to package it, to make it a nourishing food, benefited from it.
The transporters are very happy, and the farmers too are very happy. That during his tenure, they are able to collect a lot of money from the sale of their commodities from the farm.
I know somebody who supplies egg. At least he has got a ready output for his market. When
we started the program, the government gave two uniforms, a pair each, to each of the food vendors, free. And tailors were brought in from each local government to sew for the food vendors in their local government. So they can also say they have benefited from this government.
Apart from empowering the women, the idea of directing that none of the food components being fed to our children should be sought outside the state has also impacted positively on the economy of the state.
The health component of the OMEAL program was also a subject matter of interest for the curious mind, since only a healthy pupil can benefit from the course of instructions in schools, no matter how well designed the curriculum.
It has encouraged pupils to come to school and stay there and want to come again and again and again. It has enhanced their physical outlook as well as brain content.
Nutritionists charged with the job of improving the school feeding menu at the Obafemi Awolowo University brought their knowledge to bear on what the children were fed 5 days a week that would constitute one wholesome diet, balanced in all nutrients required for the smooth growth physically, mentally, and emotionally of all children in the state of Osun. Some food crops with improved nutrients were introduced from the Food Research Institute, the samples of which were given to local farmers who grew them for the school food vendors to buy through government-empowered off-takers for meals. The vegetables, fruits, chicken, eggs, fish, beef, grains, including the bread components of the meals served, were sourced internally from within the state. In fact, almost nothing came from outside, and this made the feeding program a classic example of Aregbenomics.
The OMEAL program has a situation whereby it is the farmer in the state of Osun that are growing most of the things they serve them.
On Monday, we usually give the pupils bread with stew and a egg with an orange. On Tuesday, we usually give the students rice and beans with stew with chicken and orange. On Wednesday, we usually give the pupils yam, sliced yam with stew, where we put catfish in it, and we usually give them bananas. On Thursday, we give them rice with melon, egusi, garnished with vegetable, and chicken with banana. On Friday, we give them cocoyam porridge with vegetable, where we put beef in it with orange fruit.
We feed these kids with 35 heads of cattle weekly, sourced from the states, 15,000 birds, that is chicken, provided locally, about 400 tons of fish weekly, provided locally. The day they consume egg, they consume 252,000 eggs, and that's over 8,400 crates of eggs. And happily, our youth took advantage of this because there's ready-made market for all their products. Everything we feed these children with are sought and purchased within the state of Osun.
The import of all these for the health of the children is that good food developed in their own backyard is served unto them. As such, the idea of any foreign food related problem was eliminated. The state spent less on pediatric drugs and care as less school-age children came down with malnutrition related issues. In addition to food, the children were periodically dewormed. Children in schools visited by our team in towns and villages around the state were visible examples of this.
We traveled to UK to see what they were doing. We discovered that what we are doing was better. And we have to train them, we have to tell them what we are doing, and they learn from us. Because they discovered that what they were feeding their children were becoming obese. And it was not good for them. They discovered that, look, they have to change from what they were feeding their children and go back to what we are feeding our children.
The academic benefits of the OMEAL program were immense. Apart from the fact that it helped in raising the enrollment figures and kept school attendance indicator on the regular position, truancy, which hampers learning, was conquered. Performance and attention span of students also improved tremendously, and this benefited the teachers in no small way. The well-fed school children were less problematic and teaching was made much easier. Learning was enhanced and the state was the better for it.
I would rate the school feeding program very high. I would rate it more than 80% success. Reason being that it is one very good program whereby the society at large has been impacted positively. It has given opportunity to about 3,007 women to get employment from the government. Apart from that, our children, they are now more regular in schools. The completion rate is better, the retention rate is better. It has even impacted on their performance in class.
Children are happy to go to school. Even during the holidays, they are always looking forward to go back to school. Because they will eat egg, they will eat fish, they will eat meat. Some don't even finish their meat and egg in school. Their mother will tell them, bring some for your younger ones. They go back home with it. When we introduced the school feeding program on the 30th of April 2012, 155,000 students were on enrollment. But to the glory of Almighty God, by the end of June in 2012, enrollment has increased to 194,000. Today, we feed kids in grades 1 to 4 in all our elementary school. By the time we took the feeding to elementary 4, then the enrollment increased to 252,000. That was about 68% increase. By 2013, the National Bureau of Statistics recorded that the state of Osun has the highest elementary school enrollment in Nigeria, ditto for 2014.
A closer look at the agri support created by the OMEAL program revealed the chain of activities which took place across a network of empowered planters who dealt directly with a set of empowered off-takers from the OES program and who also sold to food vendor cooperatives in bulk on the one hand, and on the other hand, smallholder farmers who sold to food vendor cooperatives. Government paid the planters in the two setups. This network was also applicable to the poultry, fish, and cattle farmers empowered by the government within the state. These protein providers sold their birds, animals, and fish which they were empowered to raise back to government, who offloaded to food vendor cooperatives by supplying the protein and deducting the cost from the funds due to each food vendor from government coffers, and the difference paid into the individual accounts of the food vendors.
Indeed, we have a situation whereby we have O-Fish program in the state, we have O-Bobs programs in the state. O-Fish deals with those who are empowered to be producing fish and which they have been producing in large quantity. O-Bobs is about poultry farming in the state, which we have in abundance. We have a ranch, we are tendering some cows in Oloba farms in Iwo, and the people who are engaged are enjoying doing it. Some of them, in a year, they are automatic millionaires. Almost every other thing that are used for OMEAL are products of our agricultural policy.
The women were empowered through that. A lot of women went into agriculture. They started planting cocoyam and all these things that we are using to feed our children. And that has really gone far to help our women on this empowerment issue. We have a group of women farmers in the state that supply the food vendors with orange flesh potato. This is a special potato introduced into the state by IITA, and the children find it not only nutritious, but also it has impacted positively on them both mentally and physically. The government also empowered some youth as off-takers. We gave them some funds, about 100,000. We empowered 32 youths from each ward in the state to be providers of cocoyam for the food vendors to purchase to feed the students.
Another benefit to the food vendors was the intensive training in catering given to them by the government and the purchase of set of industrial cooking utensils which they were allowed to use for private catering activities at weekends. Although the cooking utensils were given on loans, our investigations revealed that all the loans had been paid at no interest and the utensils now personal properties of the food vendors.
We batch them into cooperative societies, so that they could access soft loans for procurement of cooking utensils. We ensure that each woman accessed 41,700 naira to buy the cooking utensils. They were interest-free loan, and we made them to repay over 3 years.
We realized that they needed to have the knowledge of hygiene. They needed to know how to go about cooking. So what we did was we organized an intensive training exercise for them. It was spread over 1 week. In fact, it took place simultaneously in 2 different venues in the state at that time. We always take them through the essence of procuring good materials from the market and storing them well to ensure that they are protected from rats. We also emphasize hand washing with soap and water. In fact, we make it compulsory that before these puppies are given food, they should ensure that they wash their hands as many times as possible, especially at critical periods.
We were trained on how to maintain our hygiene aspect of the food, on how to cook our food. When you don't know how to cook your food, you destroy most of the nutrients in the food. And we normally do that training every year, including medical tests, so that if there's anything wrong with any food vendor, that person will be treated by the state government.
And to the glory of Almighty God, till date, we have not had any case of food poisoning or any of the students becoming ill after the consumption of the food. We've been accredited for this, even beyond Nigeria.
For a program of the magnitude of OMEAL, a sound monitoring mechanism was very essential, and that precisely was put in place by the state. Apart from the supervising team at the state level, monitors exist at the school, local government, and community levels. In fact, some parents were also involved in the exercise, and so it worked like a clock.
We have the health officers. They usually inspect the food. They will test the food. Maybe it is salty or maybe it is okay.
We have an I&E section whereby the officers in that unit go around, they supervise the cooking of the food vendors, and they also monitor what obtains in the schools. And very recently, the government has even added to the number of monitoring groups. Now we have units of some OMEALS cadets that also engage themselves in monitoring of the food vendors, apart from the zonal inspectors of education, the local inspectors of education. All these are part of the monitoring process.
The perfected school meal program of the Aregbesola administration in Osun attracted local and foreign interests. The federal government adopted the feeding program for primary schools nationally, while the British Parliament invited the Osun government twice through a bilateral relationship existing between Nigeria and Britain for an explanation of how the feeding program worked. The Aregbesola government's expenditure on OMEALS ran into billions of naira annually. Let's listen as the operators break it down into the individual components.
Categorically, I can let you know through the school feeding program, this government has been able to inject close to 19 billion into the system over the 8 years of government. So it's fantastic. It has multi-advantage into the society. The parents benefited from it. The pupils benefited from it by their concentration on their education. Sellers of food items benefited from it in the market. And the food vendors that are responsible for putting all this food together, to package it, to make it a nourishing food, benefited from it. We employed almost 3,009 food vendors across the state. All of these things have their own advantages.
Certainly, the health, academic, economic, and labor benefits of the OMEAL program during Ogbeni Aregbesola's tenure were applaudable. It definitely formed a part of his undying legacies in Osun. Many thanks for joining us again. Next week is another date on checking out the enduring legacies of the Aregbesola administration.